Sall, Senegal.
Thank you very much. What I wish to offer is added value based on experience. First, I bring national experience as a former head of state, built over nearly 40 years of public service. I have learned to listen, dialogue, and take difficult decisions. Second, I bring regional experience, including as chairperson of ECOWAS. This taught me how to manage crisis in complex and political situations. Third, I bring continental experience through my chairmanship of the African Union and NEPAD. These responsibilities allowed me to address Africa's major challenges, including peace and security, human rights, and development. I also led the successful campaign for the AU to become a permanent member of the G20. Together, these experiences taught me to work with leaders from all regions, listen to every perspective, and build practical solutions. If elected, I will use this experience at the service of member states. I will be a facilitator of dialogue and a Secretary General committed to implementation, reform, and restoring trust. Trust in the organization, trust among member states, and trust for the people we serve. I thank you.
Thank you, President Sall.
Macky Sall, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. My immediate action will be to build a strong team based on competence, diversity, and balanced geographical representation. I will work on 3 main priorities. First, I will strengthen the UN's capacity on peace and security through preventive diplomacy, early warning, mediation, good offices, and closer cooperation with regional organizations, particularly on peace operations. Second, I will initiate an operational review of its structures and mandates to improve the organization's efficiency and impact. I will launch consultations with member states on reform, including the UNAT initiative. I will also work with member states to address the UN's liquidity crisis while improving accountability and transparency. Third, I will keep human rights and development at the heart of the global agenda. I will begin consultations on the post-2030 agenda with member states, the Bretton Woods institutions, IFIs, the private sector, civil society, and philanthropy. I will promote development financing based more on investment, trade, and partnerships while improving developing countries' access to capital market, knowledge, and innovation. In my first 100 days, I want to restore trust and put the UN on a path to become more agile, more effective, and ready to listen, act, and bring people together. Thank you.
Carolyn Rodriguez-Burkett.
The first order of business, obviously, will be deploying my senior team. And of course, it will be geographically balanced. Firstly, of course, competence, but geographical balance and gender balance. And
Au terme de mon mandat, si j'ai la confiance des États, je voudrais laisser une ONU confiante, une ONU efficace, une ONU qui aura réussi sa transformation digitale, profitant des bienfaits de l'intelligence artificielle, mais surtout une ONU réformée tant au niveau du secrétariat qu'au niveau des États membres. Parce qu'en réalité, sans les États membres, quelle que soit la volonté du secrétaire général, les réformes seront timides. Au niveau des États membres, il nous faut réinterroger nos méthodes de travail. Nous avons 40 000 mandats aujourd'hui qui ont été activés dans les différentes instances de l'organisation. Plus de 27 000 réunions annuelles. Alors, l'impact doit être prouvé et c'est cette réforme des méthodes de travail qui devra nous permettre d'arriver à l'efficacité, mais aussi une meilleure harmonie entre les différents services de l'organisation. Et je voudrais, pour terminer sur ce point, prendre l'analogie de l'orgue, qui est un instrument musical très important, qui utilise des tuyaux, mais chaque tuyau émet un son qui peut être grave, qui peut être aigu, qui peut être cristalline, une note cristalline. Mais il faut un orguiste, quelqu'un qui sait mettre en harmonie ces différents instruments. Nos organisations, avec les différents services, doivent avoir un organisateur de cette harmonie. Et si l'ONU devait être un orgue, je crois pouvoir avoir la capacité de donner une belle partition au nom des peuples que nous représentons.
Thank you. Mr. Grossi, there is definitely a difference between influence and authority. The Secretary General often has influence through the power of persuasion. Can you give this audience an example of where you have used your influence over authority to get what is necessary?
Well, I think it's clear that so far, and I say so far, because there is an ongoing war there, but we have been able, the IEA, to establish the only independent multilateral presence in a theater of war to prevent a nuclear accident with radiological consequences at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, where our inspectors are now deployed, established. As you can imagine, as we all can imagine, it was not easy to get to that possibility. And we have negotiated 6 by now, ceasefires between the Russian Federation and Ukraine to be able to do indispensable repairs that would prevent a major accident. That is only possible through credibility. That is only possible when you come to the table, the real table, and not the imaginary table, with viable solutions. That is one example.
Madam Bachelet, I am curious, just a little bit earlier, Mr. Grossi did talk about the idea of impartiality and independence. When we talk about the Secretary General and the dependence on member states to fund this organization, you, as Secretary General, if you were so selected, would have a duty to speak independently. If a major donor were to threaten to withhold funding unless you soften your criticism of them, what would you do?
I will speak. I will speak out loud what I think is my moral authority and my duty. And I have to tell you, when I was UN Women Civil Director, there was this donor who came and said, if you do that, I will take all your funds. And I did it because that was what needed to be done. It took all the funds off, but we tried to fund other funds. So for me, neutrality, impartiality, independence is in my DNA. I've always done that all over my life. And I have proven that that is so important because that's the only possibility that the 193 member states feel that this Secretary General really represents them all, the powerful and the less powerful. Otherwise, it's terrible because if you permit yourself to be pushed, I have been pushed for other reasons as well as High Commissioner of Human Rights to not launch certain documents. But I did it because it was my duty. And you have to do your duty. Otherwise, it's not worthy to be Secretary General.
In doing that duty,
Sorry?
the pushback from France, from Russia, the UK, the United States,
From many
China.
countries. From many countries.
Thank you very much. Ms. Greenspan, the next Secretary General is likely to face sustained financial pressures as it undergoes this reform. If you had to make a difficult choice financially, what would you protect at the United Nations at all costs?
I don't agree with you. First of all, because if we start by saying first what is everything that we are going to cut or stop to do, we will be in the worst situation. I have negotiated a lot in financial scenarios. Believe me, that's not the first thing you do. First of all, we have to build on the resolution that just passed here on the liquidity crisis of the UN and convince, because I think that the financial crisis is linked to the political crisis of the organization. So we have to protect the center, we have to protect the charter, we have to protect the three pillars, but we have to be more agile, we have to be able to deliver better results, have more impact, and use our resources wisely to convince that we are able to use the taxpayers' resources in the best way possible. But don't start by giving up. That will be a bad strategy.
But even when many of those resources are being withheld, the amount of arrears right now to the UN, particularly by the United States, is unprecedented.
Absolutely. I understand that. And believe me, I know the numbers. Yes? But what I'm telling you is that it's not giving up from the beginning, not trying to convince, not trying to bring solutions to the problem that we are facing. And I think that part of it is try to have a stable financial path for the UN. When you don't know what you are counting on, you cannot be strategic and you cannot do your job. So I think that next year is a good year to have a package that will bring back a stable financial perspective for the UN.
President Sall, you have used the word trust several times here tonight. How would you actually preserve your independence in the face of the P5 without losing trust of either the Security Council or the people that you are going to represent?
J'ai déjà prouvé par mes responsabilités antérieures mon indépendance. Mon indépendance qui a consisté dans ma diplomatie à dire qu'il n'y a pas d'exclusivité, qu'il n'y a pas non plus d'exclusion. Le dialogue, pour moi, s'impose avec tout le monde. Et aujourd'hui, cette crise de liquidité, en réalité, elle met en sourdine une crise de confiance. Et le prétexte, c'est la réforme. Donc, j'ouvrirai vraiment open book les comptes de l'organisation. Je mettrai également à la disposition de tous les États membres les propositions de solutions de réforme, tant au plan budgétaire qu'au plan des ressources humaines, de façon transparente. À partir du moment où les choses sont claires avec tous les États membres, il appartient maintenant à chaque État membre de remplir sa part de responsabilité et donc de s'acquitter de son devoir qui est sa cotisation par rapport à l'organisation. Mais le premier acte, c'est rebâtir la confiance et ça va être l'élément le plus important, je crois, dans le travail du futur secrétaire général.
We now want to go back out to the audience for two questions, and the first one will be for Maria Fernanda Espinosa, coming from a UN member state representative.
Thank you. I am Ambassador Khalilou Ibrahim Tutangi, Deputy Permanent